Let's say China.
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 China. China.
There are next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
You go over to China.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Trump statement, tweeting out insults to Angela Merkel. What's he doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host.
Yes. Hello, and welcome. I am James Andrews, and you are listening to So This Happened, the only news you need if you have been living under a rock for the past week, or if you like the sound of my voice, or... Actually, no, that's it. Just those two reasons. It's Friday, the 16th of March, 2018, and a very big welcome to the very first and brand new long form of So This Happened. The weekly show where we take a look back at what happened and just sort of say, what the fuck? And this week was no different from any other. From Don Jr. being handed divorce papers, to Rex Tillerson being fired, to Snoop Dogg releasing a gospel album. And we'll get to all that and much more. But before we do, I would just like to ask you for a small favour. Wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, wherever it is, leave a little review and give us a 5-star rating if you think we're worth 5 stars, but that really does help the show out. Anyway, on with the show? And I feel we really have to start with this whole Snoop Dogg thing, because it amazes me. There's a lot of stuff that's happened this week where I've gone, wow, that's amazing. But Snoop Dogg putting out a gospel album, that just makes me go, wow, that's amazing. Because you'll remember a few years ago, or maybe you won't remember, and it's probably best if you don't, he became Snoop Lion for a time and decided he wanted to be a reggae artist. And I'm a big fan of reggae, and it wasn't very good. Anyway, he's now giving a shot at gospel. And you may believe this or not, I am not massively in touch with the gospel world. I'm not really sure what counts as good gospel and bad gospel, but apparently, according to people who have listened to this who like gospel music, this album's actually pretty decent. He's got the right people on there, sort of the superstars of gospel. And I listened to it today just because, well, sheer curiosity, sort of a car crash type deal. And while I say I'm not big into gospel, so I didn't love it, and Snoop Dogg's not really on it very much. It's all these other people I've never heard of singing, but there is one track where he sort of half raps, half sings, and there's one lyric in there which I think is pretty much unforgivable. And it is, I'm here smoking trees when I should be on my knees. That's a brave lyric, isn't it? I think perhaps he was playing around with other lyrics at the same time, sort of like, I'm sat here smoking weed when I should be helping those in need, or perhaps something a little more abstract, I'm sat here puffing on marijuana, but really, I should be a soybean farmer. Perhaps not, but anyway, he shouldn't be smoking trees, he should be on his knees. A very brave lyric. And you know what? God bless him for trying something new. See what I did there? God bless, because it's gospel? I know, I'm really fucking clever. And a divorce is going to be messy when you hire a criminal defense attorney to represent you. Well, that is exactly what Vanessa Trump has done in her lawsuit against Don Jr. She's hired a criminal defense attorney to represent her in a divorce. The New York-based lawyer, David Ferguson, is best known for securing the release of a New York man from federal prison back in 2007 after a judge overturned a murder conviction related to a bar fight in 1994. So this would seem to be a fairly strange choice of representation for what is being described as a amicable separation. And I bet you the look on Don Jr.'s face when those papers got handed to him, because normally he just looks like a deer in headlights anyway, right? Sort of, there's nothing there. There's just nothing there. You can just see the, Mr. Trump Jr., you are served. That was probably it, wasn't it? That was probably exactly how it went down. It's amazing, actually, that she lasted 12 years with him, really. I don't know. I don't think I could last 12 minutes in a room without wanting to hit him. But, there you go. The Don Juniors are getting divorced. What do you say to that? Congratulations. I suppose congratulations to Vanessa. And I couldn't give a fuck about Don Jr., so well done, Vanessa. And, of course, it wouldn't be the week if we didn't mention Stormy Daniels. Really? A thunderclap when I mention the name. Don't ever do that again. Alright, thank you. Stormy Daniels, the porn star who apparently had sex with Donald Trump, which in itself is really disgusting. And I think most people would not want to admit to that, would they? You know what I mean? It's sort of, oh yeah, I shagged Donald Trump. Don't ever tell anybody, because it will make me look like an absolute slag. So don't ever mention it. But anyway, Stormy's all about it. Or is she? This is one of those stories to me where I sort of file it in, couldn't give a shit. I understand a lot of people are very excited that maybe something will come out that she had sex with Donald Trump. Well, she probably did. I don't think anyone's going, no, she probably didn't. I think everyone says, yeah, he probably fucked her. Absolutely. But who cares? I'll tell you why I don't care. It will change nothing at all. We're talking about a man who said on a video, and it came out, that he just grabs people's lady bits all the time because he's famous and he can do that. And then he tried to fuck that other lady when they were buying furniture. And nobody cared. Right? The Republicans and the evangelicals said, yeah, but he's a changed man now. That was old Donald. We're now talking about new Donald, who's forgiven and fantastic. So I couldn't give a shit. When Bill Clinton got busted with the blue dress thing, Monica Lewinsky, that was her name, I forgot it for a second there, Monica Lewinsky, I didn't give a shit either. I was like, you know what, politicians, they're probably all doing it, aren't they? It's just the ones that get caught, we go, oh my god, it's so disgusting, they're so immoral. Of course they are, they're politicians, it's part of the game, innit? So that's why the Stormy Daniels thing I couldn't care less about. And the thing is, right now, she's got a GoFundMe page, right, to raise $130,000 so that if she breaks her silence, she can pay the money back and she won't get in trouble. I have a big problem with that because a lot of people have donated to it and it's already at over $100,000 in just a few days. The problem I have with it is, if you go on GoFundMe, there are thousands of accounts on there from people who were in a terrible car accident, or their kid has cancer, or something along those lines, and they may be raising $400 or $500 at most. Some lady who's already pretty wealthy, I suspect, says, yeah, I want $130,000 so I can tell you if I shag the president or not. Well, I tell you what, Stormy, go make another porno. Seriously, you make that, I guarantee people will pay for it. You'll make $130,000 overnight. It's that simple. Or wait a second, do you not do that anymore? Are you changed as well? No, go make a porno, get your money. I hope nobody listening gave her money, because I think that's wrong. I might be incorrect, but to me it just seems like somebody that's really trying to get the spotlight on her. You know what I mean? Like Omarosa did when she left the White House and she's like, I could tell you some of the things that happened in the White House. Well, okay, go on then. Well, I'm going to wait for a lucrative buck deal and then I'll spill the beans. This Stormy thing sort of has the same feel to me. You know, I've got so much dirt on Donald Trump, you wouldn't believe it. And it can all be yours for $130,000. You know what I mean? If you've got dirt on him, just tell him. If he takes you to court, there are going to be many people in this country that will be happy to represent you for free. That much I can guarantee. So to me, it just seems a little bit like someone's trying to grab the spotlight. But I am quite jaded. And if you don't mind, I think I want to stay on the subject of porn stars for just a moment more, because this was a story that happened this week that sort of just caught my eye and gave me a little bit of a chuckle, and then I thought about it and goes, oh, it's not that funny. But there are funny parts to it, you'll see what I mean. The porn star Christiana Sin is claiming that a Domino's pizza delivery driver offered her $200 for sex. She had the pizza delivered to her hotel room, and a few hours later she received a few text messages from the alleged delivery driver. And I won't read out all the text messages, but essentially he said, yeah, I was the guy that delivered your pizza today. And she said, why are you texting me? I didn't give you my number. To which he responded, I was offering you $200, but never mind, you must be one of those bad and bougies. So, terrible English aside, it appears that he was going to offer her $200 for sex. Now, it's not explicitly said there, it's just sort of, I was going to offer you $200, but you must be bougie, so yeah, I don't have $2,000, or whatever he was doing. So, it's clearly a case of sexual harassment. Whether you're a porn star or not doesn't matter. Sexual harassment is sexual harassment. So that bit's fucked up. But then the funny part, the part that I absolutely love, is that when she called the Domino's to complain and said, look, I was just sexually harassed by one of your employees, this is what they said, they apparently offered her a cinnamon twist dessert for her troubles. She declined the offer. She wasn't into the cinnamon twist. Then Domino's went on to say, actually, you know what? That person doesn't even work at Domino's. We have no idea who Chris is. No idea whatsoever. But Miss Sin does not believe them and is threatening legal action, which I think she should absolutely take. She has the text messages. They were clearly harassing in form. So yeah, go for it, Christiana, but don't set up a fucking GoFundMe page because I will not be into that, okay? No GoFundMe pages. And now I would just like to take a moment to introduce you to a guest. This is a man who thinks more than you and more than me. In fact, he thinks all the time. He spends most of it in a garden, a lovely, picturesque garden. His name, if you can believe this, is simply the Philosopher. That's what he goes by. Nobody knows who he is. He is just the Philosopher. Anyway, he has very kindly offered to share some insight and deep thoughts with you. So, it'll be a nice change from my moronic ramblings. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on So This Happened, the Philosopher.
Welcome to my garden. Come on in. Let's chat a while. In summer 73, I was staying alive. In my philosophical counselling practice, I encourage clients to develop a life practice. By that, I mean a perspective on life, a way of thinking and hence feeling, together with a mundane set of habits that make for a meaningful life. In simple terms, it's about habituation, habits of thought and habits of action. I derive it from the ancient wisdom of Aristotle and Confucius. Both ancient sages, in slightly different ways, suggested that our life's habits make for our character, and our character determines how well we live. Good habits make for a flourishing life, a life of well-being. With my clients, I call it a life practice, and I give suggestions about how to develop such. But it's not an easy fix. The converse of a good life practice is a bad one. Unhealthy habits make for an unhealthy life, and that includes both habits of thought and habits of action. How difficult it feels to break unhealthy habits and to replace them with good ones. I've played guitar since I was 15. My first summer job was at the 2 in 11 store on Blackpool Promenade. £2 11 shillings, like $1 novelty store. On my way to work, I passed a music store. Proudly displayed in the window was a nylon string guitar on sale for £32. I worked for 2.5 weeks, saved all the money, quit my job and bought the guitar. The rest is history, as they say, and summer 73 was filled with the magic of learning to play. I played ever since and built up some good habits and some bad ones. Recently I was playing around with flamenco style, and I realised quickly that I'd picked up bad habits with the use of my first and middle finger right hand. I had to change the habit. My fingers wouldn't play the flamenco way, too habituated in old patterns. To change the pattern takes much practice, and as in guitar playing, so in life. One of the habits of thought I've been playing with is the way we think of others, heroes, exemplars, the people we look to for inspiration, the ones we follow. We humans are meaning-seeking, myth-creating animals. It's natural to want to find and follow others who've made it, the folk with charisma. Sociologist Max Weber suggested that this is the beginning of all religious traditions. The charismatic figure attracts others who become followers. In time, successive generations of followers mythologize the founder and make the founder something they likely were not. The mythology gives meaning. And it's not just a religious phenomenon. We lionize others, set them apart, idolize and want to be like them. Too often the bubble bursts. We find the exemplars not quite what we thought. Disillusionment creeps in, and the meaning we'd created crumbles in proportion to the letdown. We're left looking around for some other exemplar to follow. It can become a repeated pattern, a habit that doesn't lead to well-being. How do we avoid such letdowns? Here's a few habits of thought I've found helpful. Number 1, don't expect too much from people and don't put others on a pedestal. Number 2, be kind with your own mistakes and be kind with the mistakes of others. Number 3, learn from all but find your own path. And number 4, don't be afraid of the changes and turns that life brings. Now where's that guitar? Be well.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Philosopher. Is that it? Mr. Philosopher? Sir Philosopher? Dr. Philosopher? Any of the above. Anyway, that was pretty awesome, and it's going to make everything else I say for the rest of the episode sound really stupid. So, to make me sound slightly smarter, let's have a listen to this.
You're fired. 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 You're fired.
Let's go.
Hello, Mr. Trump. It's an
Hi.
honor. It's an honor to meet you. I was wondering what you would say to President Obama.
You're fired.
Yes, if you're ever feeling slightly stupid, listen to a little Donald Trump. It will make you feel much better about yourself. But those clips, as well as making me feel less stupid, do serve a purpose, because as we know, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, was fired this week. And it begs the question, for a man who likes to say "you're fired" many, many times, why is it that he can't actually say those words to people who are important in his administration? You'll remember that James Comey, the former FBI director, found out that he'd been fired from watching cable news while on a government trip in Los Angeles. A letter was later hand-delivered to him, but he found out the news by watching TV. This week, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson reportedly got the bad news from Twitter. That's right, he found out that he was fired through Twitter. He spent most of last week in Africa, and according to most accounts, he was only vaguely informed a few days earlier by the Chief of Staff John Kelly that the President was considering a change. So you can imagine his surprise when he's just scrolling through going, what did the fucking moron say now? Oh shit, I'm fired. Damn. My wife is going to be pissed. And of course, if you have ever run a business or worked for a business, so pretty much everybody, you know that that is really not an acceptable way to let somebody go. And even when it doesn't happen on TV or Twitter, it happens through mainly General Kelly. He was the one that informed Steve Bannon that he was fired, that Anthony Scaramucci he found out through Mr. Kelly, as did the White House Secretary, Rob Porter. Donald Trump never walked up to any of these men and said, "You're fired." Even Reince Priebus, who technically resigned, discovered that that information was made public by the president's Twitter account before he'd even had time to mention it to anybody. Now, if you would ask Donald Trump why he isn't the actual person that says, "You're fired," he will be quick to tell you that he's very loyal. He in fact once said, I quote, "I'm a loyal person. It would be so easy for me to terminate this man, ruin his life, ruin his families, ruin his whole everything and say, 'You're fired.'" I've fired many people, especially on The Apprentice. So there we see Donald Trump saying something and then walking backwards and completely denying it. I couldn't fire him because I'm so loyal. Now, I've fired people, lots of people, fucking millions of people. But I'm very loyal, so I can't do it. I want someone else to do my dirty work for me. But apart from showing that Donald Trump can't actually look someone in the face and say, "You're fired," this also shows what we've always sort of known, isn't it? That he's very impulsive when it comes to hiring people. He hires on gut instinct rather than on qualifications, and I think we see that time and time again with people that he has employed in the administration. Betsy DeVoe, for instance, she knows about as much about education as a 4-year-old. In fact, a 4-year-old would probably do a better job. Rex Tillerson, a businessman, knew fuck all about being Secretary of State, but there he was, he found himself as Secretary of State. So Donald Trump hires these people on what he likes to refer to as his gut instinct, and then it turns out that they can't do the job, so they have to get fired. And then he falls back on "but I'm so loyal, I don't want to ruin their lives, so could you do it please? You ruin their life and I'm still the good guy." And that's why I think he uses Twitter so much, because then it's not really him, is it? It's just 240 characters badly written on a computer screen or a phone screen. And it seems that he challenges people or criticizes people on Twitter before the firing happens. So a few people who spring to mind: Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and then most recently the National Security Advisor, McMaster. They've all been getting rather nasty tweets of late. And so far, Donald Trump hasn't actually sent the tweet out saying, "I just fired McMaster's and I've hired a banana in his place." But you never know, it may come tomorrow, and it may be a pineapple, in all fairness. So, goodbye Rex, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Now, sticking with Donald Trump and his tweets that sort of get him in trouble all the time, the newest one this week, one of my absolute favourites, he completely made up figures about Canada, specifically the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Donald Trump kept saying that the US has a trade deficit with Canada. It was pointed out to him by the US Department of Commerce that the US actually ran a $2.8 billion trade surplus with Canada in 2017. Even with those facts, Donald Trump is still convinced that there is a trade deficit. In a tweet this week, he wrote, "We do have a trade deficit with Canada, as we do with almost all countries, some of them massive." But then, in a moment of beautiful instant karma, audio footage was obtained from a 30-minute speech that Donald Trump gave at a private fundraiser in Missouri on Wednesday night. In that speech, he said, and I quote, "Trudeau came to see me. He's a good guy, Justin. He said, no, we have no trade deficit with you. We have none. Donald, please. Nice guy, good-looking guy comes in. Donald, we have no trade deficit. He's very proud because everybody else, we're getting killed. And then in a moment that is pure Donald Trump, he then said to a crowd of people, and I quote, I said, wrong, Justin, you do. I didn't even know. I had no idea. I just said, you're wrong. Then after the speech, Donald Trump reportedly asked a number of members of his staff to check that out and say, hey, find out if what I said is real, because I don't know. I mean, I told him there's a deficit. I have no fucking idea. I don't know. Could you see if there is? So they found out and said, no, there isn't. There's a surplus. And Donald said, right, so there's still a deficit. Brilliant. Yep, there's a massive deficit. The White House is yet to comment on this story about Donald Trump just making shit up. I suspect people in the White House are getting really tired of journalists calling them up and saying, hey, you know that Donald Trump just made that shit up, right? Do you have a comment? They're just going, fuck's sake, yes, of course he made it up. No, we don't have a comment. There's no bloody comment. We don't have a comment. That's got to be a hard job, isn't it? Because you know that everything you say is just total bullshit. They call you up and say, look, the president made this up. Can you confirm that he knows he made it up? And they just go, no, what am I fucking doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? I could be flipping burgers right now, but no, I'm fielding fucking questions from journalists about bullshit. Ah, God. Well, like they say, it's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. And now, a brand new So This Happened segment.
Just the facts, mammy. Just the facts, mammy. Just the facts, mammy. Just the facts, mammy.
Yeah, so ridiculously long introduction aside, but it was really catchy. I had to just let it go. I hope you understand. This is a segment that we call Just the Facts. This is where we take a story that you may have heard, some information that you may have heard, and we tell you what the real story is behind it. Now, in this day and age of 24-hour news media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, a lot of stories come out and a lot of rumours come out, and all of a sudden, they're true. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some of those rumours or ideas and tell you whether or not they are in fact true or just made up or embellished. And I thought for the first ever Just the Facts, we'd do something fairly easy. So we're going to look at violent crime. Yeah, nice and easy, light, sort of ease our way into this. Now you would think by looking at Twitter or Fox News, CNN, NBC, any of them really, that we are living in absolute hell. That people are being murdered, raped and beaten up on every single street corner in America. Even the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, made a statement about it. He said, and I quote, "The violent crime rate has risen, and the homicide rate has risen by more than 20% in just 2 years. Really, after 30 years of decline in violent crime." So by listening to the words of the Attorney General or by just flicking through the news channels, you would think that people are getting beaten up and killed all over the place. But is that really true? Well, Jeff Sessions' figures are correct to a point. He is right that violent crime has increased over the last few years. Between 2014 and 2016, violent crime rate increased by 6.8%. So in a way, he is absolutely correct. Violent crime has increased. But the problem is, he's focusing just on the last few years. And that is a grave error. And that is what makes people scared, because all they hear is violent crime has risen over the last few years. We're going to hell in a handbasket. But the reality is, violent crime has been decreasing significantly over the last 30 years. In 1986, the violent crime rate was 620 violent crimes per 100,000 people. By 1991, that rate had increased to 758 violent crimes per 100,000 people. As of right now, we are below 400. So that is a massive drop from 1991, 758. We're now down below 400. So that's almost half as many violent crimes as were being committed back in 1991. In fact, Alan Lizotte, who is a professor in the School of Criminal Justice at the University in Albany, said that for 15 to 20 years, both the violent and non-violent crime rates, as measured by the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, have been dropping like a rock. It is now at the level of the early 1950s. It is very low. So as you can see by the statistics, we are in a very safe period in American history. The 1950s, we sort of look at that with those rose-tinted glasses and say, oh, it was great, the kids were out, you could leave, you didn't have to worry about them being murdered or raped or abducted, it was just beautiful. The truth is, we're at the same crime rate right now that we were back in the 1950s. Now that does also not take into account how many more people there are in the country now than there was back then. So if you do that, then the crime rate is even lower. So in fact, we're even safer than we were in the 1950s. This is incredible, isn't it? Because you wouldn't think this. By watching the news or listening to people at your work probably talking about how awful everything is, it's just not true. The facts don't back that up. Now, Jeff Sessions was also very quick to point out that the murder rate has increased by 20% in 2 years. And again, he is correct. The murder rate has increased by 20%. The problem with that is, it's another one of those statistics that you can just throw out there and it sounds, oh my god, 20%, that's huge, that's massive. But when you actually look at how many murders are committed, then it doesn't seem quite so bad. In 2014, there were 4.4 murders per 100,000 people. Okay? Now in 2016, there were 5.3 murders per 100,000 people. That's a 20% increase. But when you look at the actual numbers of people, it's really not that much. Now, I'll be the first to say one person murdered is too many. But we're not even talking about a whole person here. We're talking about sort of half a person, well, 3/4 of a person more are murdered now than they were in 2014, bearing in mind that that rate is still much lower than it was in the 90s. So the idea that is constantly pushed on us that we live in this terribly violent and unsafe society, it's just not true. The facts are not there to back it up. We are as safe now as we were in the 1950s, and in the 90s and the 80s, we were really unsafe. So like when I was a kid, well, I lived in England, but if I was a kid living here, it was much more dangerous for me to be going out, and we did a lot more because our parents back then were a lot more chill about it, weren't they? They said, oh, go the fuck outside, go play, do something, get out my hair, go outside, go play. We were in much more danger of being murdered then than we are now when parents say, no, you can't go outside because somebody's going to be there to take you and turn you into a sex slave. That's what they do. That's what everyone out there wants to do. So the moral of the story, we need to chill out and relax a little bit, man. It's actually pretty good. The crime rate is down. Now, even though there's been a slight uptick in the last couple of years, and that could be due to a number of things, and until we have more data we won't know what that is, and hopefully that's not a trend that keeps increasing. But as of right now, we're pretty damn safe, and we should feel pretty damn good about that. So the next time somebody at work or at a restaurant says, God, it's such an awful, it's so violent out there, you can say to them, well, it's not as bad as it was in the 90s. God, you remember those heady days of the 90s? Wow, murders on every corner. My God, it was terrible. And so there you go. The first, just the facts. And hopefully what we've done is we have armed you now with some statistics and proof to back it up. So when someone says to you, God, it's so dangerous out there, I'm so scared, and a lot of people are, and I'm not going to diminish that in any way, shape or form, people don't feel safe. You sort of get the feeling from talking to people that they do actually feel that it is a scary place out there. And the reason they feel that is because they get bombarded with it 24 hours a day. Every single assault, every single beating, every single murder is pumped right to them through their screen. That was something that didn't happen in the 90s. So we didn't have Twitter or Facebook or, constant news alerts saying, oh, a man in Minnesota was beaten up. We wouldn't know. Right? 30 years ago, we would have no idea that a man was beaten up in Minnesota, and therefore it wouldn't enter our sphere and we wouldn't be worried about it. But now, with the constant barrage of negative information from the media, we always feel now, we feel scared. And people do feel scared. So when you meet someone who says, yeah, it's really scary, man, it's awful, you can say to them, hang on, chill out, step back a little bit. We're actually at an extremely low crime rate. We're as safe now as the 1950s. So there you go. Just the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. And I want to end today's show on a great story. This is a great story for me personally, and I hope it's going to be a great story for you as well. It's about exercise. Now, if you're anything like me, and you're probably not, you know the idea of exercise, that it's good for you, right? You're supposed to do it. You're supposed to get out there on a bicycle or walk a little bit. You're supposed to do it. The problem is, it's not massively fun, is it? Just being honest here, I've been to a gym a few times, and it's really not very fun. Some people I know get a kick out of it, and then they say, well, you just have to wait till the endorphins kick in, and it's awesome, man. I don't think they've ever kicked in with me. I never get to that point. You've got to push through that to get to the endorphin rush. I don't want to push through that. I don't like this part. This part fucking hurts. I don't know. I don't want to push. I don't want to keep going to get the rush. I don't like this. That's me in exercise. I know it's pathetic. It's sad. But, and this is amazing, a university in England has done some tests, and they have come to a conclusion which I like very much. Soaking in a hot bath burns as many calories as a 30-minute walk. I know, it's staggeringly good news. Staggeringly good. The scientists at Loughborough University, they put 14 men through 2 tests. A 1-hour bicycle ride and a 1-hour bath. Now, they did find that cycling for 1 hour did burn more calories, okay? I think that's probably to be expected. But they found that relaxing in a bath sheds 130 calories. It's about the same as a half-hour walk. Now, I'm not sure if it really counts, because if I soak in a bath, I like to have a glass of wine. I suspect the glass of wine has more than 130 calories in, so I'm probably negating the benefits of it. I know when you're riding a bicycle, it's tricky to drink a glass of wine. You could put it in the little, the thing that the water bottle, the bicycle water bottle. You could put wine in there, but you might have a problem if you do that. But taking a bath doesn't just burn calories. It lowers your blood sugar. Yeah, the scientists found out that when you take a bath in place of riding a bike, your peak blood sugar drops around 10%. That's wonderful. And they also discovered that it has changes in the inflammatory response, which is similar to exercise. The anti-inflammatory response in exercise is very important to us. It helps protect us against infection and illness. Well, apparently taking a bath does the exact same thing. So literally, you can soak in a tub tonight. Actually, you know what? Well, it's too late because it's the end of the show now. I should have told you this at the very beginning so you could have got in the bath and listened to me, because you would be also exercising as well as listening to me. That's a win-win. So next week, before you start, just run a bath, get in there, skip the wine if you want to have a benefit from burning the calories, put your headphones in and listen to me. By the time the show is over, you are 130 calories down, your blood sugar's lower, and you are just healthier all around. I love that. I think it's a win-win. I might actually go take a bath. I think I will. I'm going to have a glass of wine, I'm going to be honest with you. But that's what I'm going to do. And so that's it. The end of the very first long So This Happened. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a really good conversation with you guys. It was really fun. My voice is a little bit sore actually. I'm not used to talking for quite this long. But it'll improve, right? Maybe I'll take a bath before I do the show, and then I'll feel like I've just exercised, so then I'll be ready to go. Anyway, as always, we can continue the conversation on Twitter at So This Happened. You can get in touch with me on Facebook or Twitter or through the website sothishappensshow.com, and you can also listen to past episodes of the show there. And please don't forget to subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening to this. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, wherever it is. Write a nice little review. I love reading them. If you have any suggestions or feedback about the new format of the show, please send them to me in an email. You can contact us through the website, or you can always just throw up a comment on Twitter. But remember, Twitter's public, so be nice, yeah? Say something nice. And so, all that is left for me is to wish you all an absolutely wonderful week. And we will do this all over again next Friday. Everyone have a good one. Take care. Good night.